we are having an emergency FRL. The NCAA tournament is done. The NCAA just released the statement now.
Before the disruptions of the COVID era, college wrestling followed a well-defined, time-honored structure that shaped the lives and legacies of countless athletes. The sport was centered around a strict 4 to 5 year competitive cycle. Many student athletes entered college as freshmen, immediately immersing themselves in a system where every match, every practice, and every season was a stepping stone toward excellence. In this model, each year carried its own unique challenges and expectations. Freshmen were introduced to the rigors of high-level competition, learning not only the technical aspects of wrestling, but also the discipline and work ethic required to succeed at the collegiate level. Coaches pushed these young athletes to adapt quickly, balancing the need for rapid skill development with the pressures of academic life. The intense focus on performance meant that every contest, whether a scrimmage or a championship match, was an opportunity to prove oneself and secure a coveted spot on the team. As athletes progressed into their sophomore and junior years, the competition intensified. By then, they were expected to contribute more significantly to the team's success. Upperclassmen had already established themselves as key players, and with limited roster spots available, every match was critical. Scholarships and leadership roles were awarded based on merit, experience, and the ability to perform under pressure. This environment fostered a culture of relentless competition and personal accountability, where each wrestler's journey was marked by both individual achievement and the collective success of their team. The senior year was the pinnacle of this system, a time when athletes were expected to lead, mentor younger teammates, and deliver peak performances. It was a season of culmination, where years of hard work and dedication were put on full display. The traditional college cycle ensured that by the time athletes graduated, they had not only honed their physical skills, but had also developed the mental fortitude and resilience necessary for life beyond the mat. This structured approach was more than just a sporting schedule. It was a framework for personal growth. The balance between athletic ambition and academic responsibility created an environment where wrestlers learned to manage time, deal with pressure, and embrace both success and failure as part of their journey. The fleeting nature of the college experience, usually limited to just 5 years, meant that each season was imbued with urgency and passion, driving athletes to maximize every opportunity. In essence, the traditional college wrestling model was a crucible for developing not just great wrestlers, but well-rounded individuals. It was a system that celebrated the fleeting yet intense nature of collegiate competition, where every season was a chance to leave a lasting mark on the sport and on oneself. As COVID-19 swept the globe, college wrestling abruptly found itself in uncharted territory. The pandemic forced a complete shutdown of training facilities and canceled nearly all competitions, leaving athletes isolated from the rigorous routines they had dedicated years to. This sudden pause wasn't just physical. It took a heavy mental toll on wrestlers who had built their identities around daily training and competition. With the competitive season in limbo, the NCAA was compelled to make an unprecedented decision: grant winter sport athletes, including wrestlers, an extra year of eligibility. This move was designed to offset the lost opportunities and give athletes a fair chance to compete on a level playing field. Yet, the ripple effects of this decision were felt across the entire sport. Coaches had to rapidly adjust their training programs and recruiting strategies, while athletes were forced to navigate an uncertain future, one where the traditional 4-year cycle was suddenly extended. Many wrestlers found creative ways to maintain their physical conditioning and technique despite limited resources. However, the disruption also highlighted disparities. Some athletes struggled to access proper training environments, deepening the divide between well-supported programs and those with fewer resources. The immediate impact of COVID on college wrestling was profound. It not only halted a season, but reshaped the way the sport operated, setting off changes that continue to influence training, competition, and athlete development. The loss of live competition created a void where uncertainty and frustration mingled with the determination to adapt and overcome. In this new reality, every day became a test of resilience, with athletes learning to balance isolation with the drive to maintain peak performance in an ever-changing landscape. As the initial shock of the COVID disruption began to fade, a subtler but equally transformative change was taking shape. The cancellation of competitions and the loss of live action exposed the vulnerabilities of the traditional cycle, forcing everyone, from athletes to coaches, to rethink their long-term strategies. Amid this uncertainty, the familiar redshirt system, once a niche strategy for easing the transition into college sports or recovering from injury, started to emerge as a critical element in the evolving landscape. The COVID extension, which granted athletes an extra year of eligibility, revealed that redshirt years could do more than just provide a safety net. They could extend a wrestling career for up to 8 years. This convergence of old and new opportunities began to redefine the very structure of college wrestling, blending the benefits of additional competitive time with the seasoned wisdom of extended development. As the redshirt revolution began to redefine individual career trajectories, its effects rippled outward, fundamentally altering the fabric of college wrestling itself. The extension of eligibility didn't just give athletes more time on the mat, it reshaped the entire competitive ecosystem. Teams found themselves in uncharted territory, with seasoned veterans continuing to occupy roster spots longer than ever before, while fresh recruits faced unprecedented hurdles. This evolving dynamic set the stage for a critical examination of team composition and recruitment strategies. Coaches and athletic directors had to reconsider how they built their rosters, balancing the undeniable benefits of experienced athletes against the need for fresh talent to maintain the sport's competitive edge. At the same time, a heated debate was simmering beneath the surface. Critics argued that this extended eligibility was slowly eroding the traditional spirit of college athletics, a system designed to celebrate a brief yet intense period of athletic achievement before athletes moved on to the next chapter in their lives. They contended that a 7 to 8 year collegiate career diluted the excitement of new talent emerging each season and disrupted the natural progression of team renewal. Meanwhile, proponents maintained that the extra time allowed for deeper skill development and more robust competition, arguing that it brought about a new era of tactical maturity and enhanced performance. The impact of extended eligibility on college wrestling has ignited one of the most polarizing debates in the sport's history. What started as a temporary adjustment to accommodate athletes affected by COVID-19 has evolved into a fundamental shift in how long wrestlers can stay in the collegiate system. The question now is whether this change is enhancing the sport or slowly dismantling the traditional structure that made college wrestling unique. The added years create an environment where top-tier talent can push the sport to new heights, leading to better match quality and more polished performances. Wrestlers who may have needed extra time to physically and mentally develop now have a real chance to reach their full potential before transitioning to international competition. Some of the sport's biggest names, like Dayton Fix and Gable Steveson, have thrived under this extended model. Their ability to stay in the system longer has allowed them to dominate at the collegiate level while preparing for elite international competition. But critics see a different picture, one where extended eligibility is slowly eroding the essence of college wrestling. At its core, collegiate athletics has always been a revolving door of talent, with new stars emerging each season as older athletes graduate and move on. This cycle kept the sport fresh, giving younger wrestlers the opportunity to rise and prove themselves. Now, with athletes able to stretch their college careers across 6, 7, or even 8 years, incoming recruits find themselves stuck behind veteran wrestlers who may already have multiple NCAA finals appearances. The recruiting process has also been thrown into disarray. Coaches, once accustomed to replacing outgoing seniors with fresh talent, now face a roster logjam. When top-tier veterans stay for extra years, it limits opportunities for younger wrestlers to break into the lineup. This means fewer scholarships available for incoming freshmen and less space for new talent to develop. The result? A system that inadvertently favors established veterans at the expense of younger athletes looking for their shot. Another major concern is how extended eligibility affects the overall college experience. Historically, the challenge of balancing academics and athletics was a defining characteristic of the collegiate wrestling journey. Wrestlers were expected to manage their time wisely, knowing that their eligibility would run out after 4 or 5 years. But now, with some wrestlers stretching their careers well beyond the traditional time frame, the question arises: how many of these athletes are truly student athletes? And how many are simply staying for the competition? Does this shift move college wrestling away from its original purpose, turning it into something closer to a semi-professional system? As the debate rages on, the future of college wrestling hangs in the balance. Will the extended eligibility era lead to unprecedented growth in skill and competition? Or will it undermine the foundational structure of the sport, preventing new talent from rising and disrupting the natural competitive cycle? With no clear resolution in sight, the coming years will determine whether this shift was a necessary evolution or a misstep that altered college wrestling forever. The sport now stands at a crossroads, with its identity and competitive structure forever altered by the past few years. Coaches, athletes, and fans alike must now reckon with the long-term consequences of extended eligibility, redshirting strategies, and the changing dynamics of team rosters. Some believe that as the extra COVID year cycles out, college wrestling will naturally return to a more traditional format, where 4- and 5-year careers once again become the norm. If that happens, the recent era of extended eligibility may be remembered as an anomaly, one that tested the limits of the system, but ultimately faded away. Others argue that this shift has permanently changed college wrestling, creating a new expectation that top-tier athletes will remain in the system for as long as possible. With NIL deals now in play, wrestlers have more financial incentive than ever to extend their college careers, blurring the lines between student-athlete and professional competitor. If this trend continues, it could lead to a fundamental restructuring of how college wrestling operates, forcing the NCAA and programs across the country to reconsider eligibility rules, scholarships, and roster management. Regardless of which direction the sport takes, one thing is certain: college wrestling is evolving. The balance between tradition and progress is at the heart of the debate, and the decisions made in the coming years will shape the landscape for future generations of wrestlers. Is extended eligibility a blessing or a curse? Has it helped push the sport to new levels, or has it held back the next wave of young talent? The answer likely depends on who you ask, but one thing is undeniable: college wrestling will never be the same.